What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. And instead of our regular week where we have Main Deck Monday, Road Tuesday, and all that shenanigans, this week we're actually going to talk about world stuff. So I guess we're going to call this Worlds Week, and this will be episode 1 where we break down Toad, Trick, Crobat, and we'll have 3 days of this, and it'll be the top 3 decks I think that are good plays, or maybe great plays for Worlds. And as you see onto my my left, technically, there's somebody else, and if you just want to introduce yourself really quick.
What's up, everybody? My name is Justin Aaron. I'm also a member of Team Fish Knuckles. Got my first Worlds invite this year. Not to day 2, unfortunately, but to day 1. But I'm really excited, so hopefully what I say matters or means something, and I'm not just a scrub.
Hopefully it matters, but I brought him along on this video because he recently won a Elite Challenge with this deck. It was a little bit different. Was it Chrissy's list?
Yeah, it was 100% like I'm a net deck scrub and like took it straight. I mean, it did well. It had some good performances. So
okay, all right. I guess let's see here. So I guess the first question is, my list. I have computer search, and I know Chrissy's played Rock Guard. When you played it, did Rock Guard perform well to you? Did you like it a lot?
I mean, like, it's good. It's really good. Like, the only way, if you put it on a Toad, like, the only way it's coming off is if they play a Xerosic. And if they're wasting their Xerosic on the Rock Guard and not your DCE, like, you're still in a really good spot, because then you can just slap on a Muscle Band the next turn, unless you're getting Toad punched, and, it's whatever. But it definitely helps in the mirror, because, like I said, they can only take it out with the Xerosic, and I'd rather them focus more on that than the DCE. But at the same time, you do lose kind of like some functionality in the sense that you have computer search, which is probably one of the top 5 cards in the game. Like, or anything good. Like when you played it in the Pokemon Elite series, with Trainer Talk, like I think it definitely helped more than the Rock Guard did. So it's kind of just, I would say, up to preference. Do you want to maybe have a little bit better matchup against the mirror, or do you want to be a little bit more practical, I guess? Conservative, I guess that's a better word.
Yeah. I mean, I decided to play, like you said, just for consistency. Because with the deck right now, there's no possible way of searching out a DCE turn 1. I guess with computer search, you could just, first turn, you're like, all right, we're just going to computer search for DCE. We're going to make sure we get that Toad lock on like right away, and that way you're not gambling by playing like a supporter, maybe whiffing the DCE.
Right. Like I said, do you want more consistency, or do you want to have like a little bit better matchup against the mirror, which I think, when I say the mirror, just Toad in general, and I think that's going to probably be, Toad in general is going to be the most played card at Worlds Pokemon. So it's consistency versus a little bit better matchup.
Yeah, that's true. Now, just in case, if you have no idea what this deck does, I mean, Quake Punch, does 30 damage. Not that much, but with the Muscle Band, you got the lasers, you got Verbrink, that's 80. With Golbats and Crobat, you're doing plus 20, plus 30. That's why they're in here. Usually, Seismitoad by itself, it's going to be a very slow deck taking knockouts, but with the addition of Golbat and Crobat, it helps take those knockouts when needed. And also against like other decks, like maybe Night March, you can maybe like focus them with Golbats and Crobats, snipe them off the bench, and other stuff like that. Now, it does play 2 Manectric. How do you like the Manectrics in the deck?
I really like it because, like, Toad's great and all, but, like, say, for instance, you're up against, Virizion Genesect, or, something else, I guess, trying to think of what other grass Pokemon. I don't know, like, but having the fact that, Overrun, it's colorless, it can do 20-20, and again, you're sniping the bench, that's what Golbat and Crobat are doing, and then Assault Laser, the list plays Headringer, so you're already, if you're going up against EXs and they don't have a Muscle Band or something else attached, like, that's 120 damage, and against Rayquaza, against Shamans, like, that's just pure destruction, and I think, like, Manectric really, really helps. You're not just a one-trick pony with Toad.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, I guess the next question we're going to start talking about is the one Bunnelby. I know a lot of lists aren't playing the one Bunnelby, but if you play against Wailord, I think it's already an auto loss if you just play Toad Trick Robot by itself. So, I mean, do you think the one Bunnelby will help out? I mean, it seems like it would just maybe, get back energies with Rototiller. start burrowing.
Yeah. You can look at it from both sides. Like, yes, it will help because you can get back, your own cards. Because the point of Wailord is to deck out your opponent, and so if you have a card that, will help you not deck out, that's going to help. And like I said, burrow twice, taking away 2 of their cards. Like they want to stay ahead in the card count, and so that helps. And it can get back other cards. Like if you have to stick them more early and get rid of, Golbat or a Crobat or something important, you can get it back. Now, on the other side, is one Bunnelby really going to help? Because in my mind, if you're really wanting to fight against Wailord, you need to have a few more. It can't just be one. Like with that mindset, it's either all or nothing. And so, if you look back at the past couple worlds with Gothitelle or Kling Kling, more rogue decks and locked decks that came on, they didn't really have a big performance. Even Pyro last year, they didn't have a big performance at Worlds. So, do you want to take and get something you might play once or twice, which could, be a big deal, or do you just want to have, again, it's consistency. Like, what do you want? Do you want to have a better Wailord matchup or be a little bit more consistent against everything else?
That's very true. And I know you already touched about this, but another cool thing about Bunnelby is you can get back ECEs and Crobats and Golbats, and that's another thing I like about Bunnelby.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's kind of weird, but I guess let's move on to supporters real quick. So the deck plays the 1AZ. Do you like that a lot?
I do. I remember my league challenge. I used AZ quite a bit, either to get a damaged Toad and having to discard the energy. It's not a huge deal, or picking up a Shaman to be able to use it again. But the most important thing I think it probably is to get a damaged Pokemon EX off the field. But getting a whole line of Crobat back into your hand, and hopefully you have another Zubat or Golbat down. Just adding more damage to the field. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you just pick up a Toad that's 160 damage. You just
oh my god,
and your opponent just cries. I mean, you do play the Super Scoop Ups, but that's a flip a coin with AZ. It guarantees it. Now this list only plays 3 Super Scoop Up. Do you wish that the list played 4, or do you think 3 is enough?
I think it's fine. I played 4. I think that's what, instead of having the Bunnelby, I think I played a 4th Scoop Up. I think it's fine. I think you need to play either 3 or 4 or none. I don't think 1 or 2 makes a big difference because, if you play 1, there's a good chance you're not going to flip heads, and it's just a waste of a card. With 2, you might get 1, but with 3 or 4, there's definitely more chances of hitting heads, and so I think 3 is fine. 4 might be more optimal, but 3 is fine.
Okay. Now, the list also plays as Xerosic, and I think the majority of this card is to discard DCs off the mirror match. Maybe a discard a tool, then attach a head ringer to a certain Pokemon. What about you? Do you think anything else that you could use Xerosic for, really?
No, I think the biggest reason it's in there is for the mirror match against other Toads to try and hit. If you're Quaking Punch, they can't use computer search. They're going to have to hope they draw into another DC or already have one in hand. So if you use the Xerosic, there's a good chance you're going to be able to use your item cards the next turn. So I think Xerosic is a must-have in this deck.
Okay. And then the next card is Headringer. I mean, you already talked about Virizion and Genesect. You just kind of put on there early where they can't maybe Airmail Slash you against decks that play Megas or Primals. They have to end their turn actually to Mega Ball, which is pretty nice. Is there anything else you like to use with Headringer?
It goes great with Manectric. I love putting them on Shamans because, an easy thing to do is just Sky Return and get it off the field. Whereas now, if they have a Headringer on it, they can't Sky Return, or they have to waste an extra energy on the Shaman to Sky Return. So I think that's another big target. If they're, a smart player is going to try and get a tool down on their Pokemon as fast as they can if they see this deck, or any kind of Toad deck, because, a lot of them do play Headringers. So being able to put on a Shaman definitely helps out too.
That's true. And the thing you missed about Manectric is you have a muscle band attached to a Manectric. You could do 60, then 60 more, so 120, because they have the Headringer attached. But with the muscle band, you hit 140, and the Verbank laser, you can hit 170, which is a lot of the EXs that we have out now.
Oh, yeah.
And if they have 180 or something, you can always drop Golbats and Crobats and knock them out that way. So.
Yep.
All right.
The only thing, The only other card I could see, like supporter-wise, that could be added would be a Skyla, or not a Skyla, a Shadow Triad, just to get back another laser. That's the only other thing that I would maybe, think of putting in there, but I don't know what you would take out for it.
Yeah. And besides Shadow Triad, could you see putting anything else in the deck maybe?
I think I think you could take out the Bunnelby and either add a third Crobat in, a Sacred Ash, maybe another Muscle Band or something, or another Super Scoop Up. That would be kind of the only changes. Or if you want to switch Rock Card with Computer Search, those are kind of the only things I would see to change, really.
Yeah, that's true. Now,
I mean, well, maybe a Wide Lens to put on Manectric, because then you can do 40 to a Zubat, do 40 to a Zubat on the bench. I don't know.
knock out double Zubats.
Yeah, but I mean, that might not happen too often, but it'd be a cool play. It'd be cute.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you do play Computer Search, you could potentially do that easier.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be pretty hard if you start with Toad and I hit to Super Scoop up a Toad and get Manectric and a Wide Lens and an Energy to double knock out Zubats.
Right.
But I mean, it's cute. Like, it seems like a cute play for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess the next thing we're going to talk about is the energies. Right now, it's just 4 DC and 4 Lightning. Do you think that's enough for the deck?
I think so because, most of the time, you're only going to be attaching the Electric to Manectric. You can attach them to a Toad, so that way you can manually power up a Toad with 2 Lightning instead, or if you want to retreat a Toad, instead of having to waste 2 DCEs, you can do a DC and a Lightning.
Sure.
Attach an Electric to Crobat to knock something out if you need to attack with it. I think it's fine. It seems like 8 or 9 is typically what most Toad decks play in general, so I think it's okay.
Yeah. I know some people might freak out because generally, like, decks play like 12 to 13 energies.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing 8 probably just scares some people away, but I promise it's good, which is the 8.
Yeah. You just have to be more mindful of when and where you put the energy, because I know there have been games that I've played where I just like, oh, energy, just put it down anywhere, and then like something happens, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have 1 energy left. What am I going to do? So you just have to be a little bit more mindful of where you put it.
That's true. I guess the last card to talk about the deck is, of course, my favorite Pokemon, Shaman. It has the ability set up, draw. You have 6 cards, Sky Return for 30. Is there anything cute you could think of, Shaman, that I could do for this deck?
I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. Like, it's always fun to put a DC and a Muscle Band and knock out, a Zubat or something like that. You can do more with the laser and everything. It's not your ideal attacker, but it's not like a Jirachi where if they Lysandered up, it's just stuck. It's going to get knocked out. You can actually do something productive with Shaman other than just use its ability.
True. Now, let's start talking about matchups some. What do you think are the deck's, like, worst matchups?
The Manectric helps, but I think Kling or just Metal in general is a little tough. Just because if they can get a Dialga up and start Chrono Winding, and you either have to waste a retreat or hope you hit a Super Scoop Up Heads if you have a Toad active. It's a little more tough, and especially if they're playing Kling, you do have to try and get your bats out and knock out the Kling with only your bats. Like it's a much tougher matchup, and maybe Bunnelby will help with that, but I think that's probably your toughest. The bats help against Groudon, so it's not as bad as it probably was before without without the bats with Toad.
Sure.
VG's not super fun, but how much Virizion Genesect can be played at Worlds? I don't think that many.
Yeah, I mean, and you also, if your opponent decides to commit like muscle bands onto their Virizions, you can start overrunning them and eventually just assault laser their Genesects or whatever to knock them out.
Right.
And if they don't, you punish them by the head ringer. So I mean, either way, the VG player's in like a weird spot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna have to play. You have to worry about if they play like multiple tool retrievers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that would make the matchup like super bad. Like if they just like start picking up all the head ringers and you can't do anything about it.
Right. I will say, like the league challenge that I played using this deck, I went up against a Groudon that play like Sigilifts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so typically, as I didn't want to play Manectric down, which it could have won me the game, but that's beside the point. but there's one where you put up the Manectric, or put up the Sigilif, and I was like, okay, I can keep Quaking Punching and just try and do some damage with Laser, or I can send up the Crobat and knock it out, and I did, but it just, I don't know, that's kind of weird too, just because you give them back their items, and that's, you got to scoop up, and then, I don't know, it was like, was this really worth it? Could I not have dealt with this later? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that people have noticed too, or have to figure out when do you stop Quake Punching, when do you start Assault Lasering or Skill Diving. Like you had to, it's a weird moment. Like you said earlier against Metal, I think you have to start Assault Laser sooner than later. Or you're just gonna start losing your DC's Cabalion or Chrono Wind and stuff like that. Like you said, because Manectric has a 1 retreat cost, while Seismitoad has a 3. So at least you can like switch between like Manectric's easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Manectric definitely helps. I think, regardless, but it's still Metal's still tough.
That's true. And some other decks you might see at Worlds, like Mega Rayquaza, we already talked about some. You play Manectrics, or they're weak to Lightning, and you play Headringers. Donphan is not that bad either. You have the Crobats and Golbats to manually skill dive them. Night March, you pick up the Night March off the discard, off the bench to start knocking them out. Kyogre is definitely kind of weird, but since they play like the rough seas, you can maybe like heal your Toad off the bench and then like super scoop the active.
Right.
It's still a weird matchup.
Yeah, I think it depends on like how soon they can get the 4 energy on the Kyogre. I think that's for every Kyogre matchup, but if you can start taking things out, and you have the 90x attackers if they just try and set up with Suicune active. So.
Okay. What about? Do you think of anything else? Maybe. What about just like quad Mega Manectric? How do you think this deck handles that?
I think that's actually. It depends on what version. Like if they're going with Tool Drop Trubbish and Garbodor, Quake and Punch early, that you can try and get that so they can't drop all their tools and items, but just a consistent 110 of damage with Turbo Bolt attaching all the energy back. It seems like an uphill battle, but I think it's winnable. Again, it's just kind of how you draw it. I would say it's closer to a 50-50 than anything else.
I mean, you do play the Headringer, so if you could Headringer Manectric early enough, you could make it where they have to attach 3 energies, and now if they max potion, they can't like cycle between multiple Mega Manectrics.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that matchup is for sure weird. It depends on how fast they get down Garbodor also. And if they can't get it down, your Crobats and Golbats can start putting in the work, but...
Right. Anytime, like, you see a Trubbish, and typically I think they would want to drop 2 Trubbish at the same time, just so you can't just go crazy one turn with a Golbat and Crobat or something like that. Or 2, something, I don't know.
2 Golbats and a Crobat.
Right.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it seems, I don't know. It's a definitely weird matchup. That's probably the weirdest matchup for this deck I can think right now at the moment. But do you have anything else you want to say about the deck?
It's really good. I mean, it's super consistent. The extra damage from the Crobat line just puts it over the top. Manectric and Seismitoad by themselves are nice. And, you always have the poison and sleep with Verbank and Laser. But I think it's the Crobat line that just makes this like a legitimate world winner.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, if you want to see some games with this deck down below, I'll have the League Challenge where Justin plays this deck. You see the difference between like Rock Guard and Computer Search. I mean, can you see those in his games? I don't know if you remember that or not.
I think I can't remember. Was I on 1 or 2 games? I think I was on 2 games.
You're on 2 games. You played against Mega Rayquaza and against Virizion and Genesect.
Yeah. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and watch.
It
made a difference. Yeah, definitely made a difference.
Okay, and I know for sure I have the trainer, like Justin said earlier, we have the Trainer Tark Challenge, and I actually played 3 different games, 3 different rounds, best 2 out of 3 with this deck. So if you want to see a lot of games with that, against, I think it was Ryan Sablehaus, Kyle Sablehaus, and Russel LaPerre, who all had their Worlds invite, so those are really good games to watch. But,
yeah.
Yeah, do you want to say anything in closing?
Um, hope you don't get paired up against Whaler if you play this. Unless you're, I think anybody would say that unless you're playing like Quad Bunnelby. But if you're playing at Worlds and you're still kind of trying to figure out, what should I play? Like this is easily one of the best decks you could decide on. Like you really don't have any, auto losses with this. Like you can win against any deck essentially.
Alright. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. I know it's something different. Haven't really done something like this, but hopefully you learned something about, Seismitoad, Manectric, Crobats. And also, if you're going to the Boston Open, which is the Saturday after Worlds, another good deck to play. Unless, for some reason, Friday night there's some deck that's like 8-0 or 9-0 and that we've never seen before, then maybe play that deck instead.
Maybe.
Be Whaler all over again.
Ugh.
But hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I hope you have a great day. Alrighty, bye.